My brothers and sisters in Christ, today the Church celebrates the solemnity of her universal patron, Saint Joseph. Normally, this solemnity is celebrated on March 19th, but since it fell on a Sunday of Lent this year, it was transferred to today, March 20th. And so, indeed, we celebrate today the universal patron. Of course, we know the patronage of the Blessed Virgin Mary, but Saint Joseph, the other part, aside from Christ and Mary, the other part of the Holy Family, Joseph himself, who under many titles guides and protects us as well. And so today's gospel is a very brief passage from the Gospel of Matthew, and yet offers incredible insight as to why Joseph is so important and such an example for each of us. We can look at the other two members of the Holy Family and say, well, Jesus was God. And Mary, while she wasn't God, Mary was preserved from original sin. And so sometimes we're tempted to downplay their example because they're not like us. In a sense, Jesus and Mary can't relate to being a fallen creature like me. And yet Joseph can. And what does the gospel we hear today tell us about Joseph in just a few words? First of all, it tells us that he was a righteous man. And this word is loaded with meaning. For the Old Testament Jew, perhaps is not a stronger word positively that you could speak about a person than to say he was righteous. For us, we speak today of someone who has great faith, a holy person, but for the observant Jew, righteous, this would be the best thing you could say. What is it to be righteous? Someone who is upright, who is true to God's ways in all things. And so we're told that Joseph is upright, clearly of an upright, not only in his devotion to God, but to his neighbor, that he is a morally just and upright man. But right away, we see that he is also a merciful man. Why? Because as soon as he discovers that Mary is with child, before he realizes the origin of this pregnancy, he's contemplating divorce. After all, it's clear to him, at least for the moment, that Mary has committed adultery. And under the law, Mary could be stoned, could be executed for this. And yet, Joseph does not want to expose her to shame. He's looking to see how he can divorce her quietly. He's required by justice, his uprightness as a Jew, to not be a party to this, but he also, in charity, does not want any ill to befall Mary. And so, we see that he is righteous and he is merciful, but in all of this, as he contemplates these questions, none of it matters, for the angel comes to him in the dream to let him know that Mary, in fact, is not an adulteress, that Joseph is party to the great intervention of God. And so, he receives these instructions in a dream, instructions that will change his life forever. Not only is he to take this woman, Mary, who's pregnant with child that is seemingly not of his own, into his home, but he is to become the father of the long-awaited Messiah, the foster father of God in the flesh. This is a lot to take in. And worse yet, unlike Mary, who the angel comes to in the Annunciation, Joseph receives this visitation in a dream. If you or I were to receive it in a dream, we might quickly, upon waking, find a way to convince ourselves that it was just foolish dreaming and not real, so we wouldn't have to grapple with it. And yet, Joseph reveals himself to be a man of great discernment and of trust, and that he responds to the calling of God he has received and follows the instructions without question. In fact, as we'll see in the Gospel of Matthew several times, he receives instructions for God in a dream, and each time he does so without question and becomes the great protector of Mary and Jesus. And so, Saint Joseph, the righteous one, the merciful one, and the discerning and trusting one, has a lot to reveal to us as universal patron of how we should conduct ourselves before God. May we be holy as St. Joseph has revealed to us, even as foster fathers for the one who is truly the Holy of Holies. May God bless you all.